to. There's a common denominator. All of them tie back to a operational corporate government somewhere in the world, right? This government had a lobbying body that fought for their people that was in the Americas to receive the reparations payout. The prime example was the Japanese that was held in internment camps during World War II. As part of the settlement of World War II, the peace treaty, they gave reparations to those, not just Japanese, they had some Chinese mistaken as Japanese in those internment camps too. But they didn't give them reparations. They only gave the Japanese reparations because it was part of a negotiated contract between two corporations to settle a war. We talking about the reparations. First of all, their money is legal fiction. It's fiat. That means they said it has value. Ever since 1933, when they took us off the gold standard, their money has no value. Right. It's only valuable as long as they can use it to trade oil. Right. Well, the BRICS nations then damned them on that dollar. So now their reparative dollars have no value to the tribes. Our wealth is tied to the land. Give us what's rightfully ours, and you can take your monopoly money and wipe your ass with it. Right. But if you accept the monopoly money, what they are in turn saying is, I'm from another land and I got a lobbying body that represents me on that land in the treaty negotiations to give me a reparations for the conditions you put me in. My question becomes, if you're going to receive reparations, which African nation that you say you came from has a lobbying body lobbying to get you your reparations? The only way, because the reparations is tied to your African slave trade identity. It's not tied to your indigenous status to the land. Right, because they was never supposed to cross the Appalachians to begin with.
Exactly.
It was the Lewis and Clark expedition that crossed them over into the West. It was the Mexico-American War that gave them control of California down to Texas.
Right.
Right. Notice there was a war. Right. The land that they held in treaty is the result of the resolution of a war. All this stuff is to disassociate the people from the land. Yeah. If we reclaim the land back, all of them, we was in a warlock.
Right.
This is what put us in poverty.
Right? You know,
the warlock, we have to remember how they got the land from those tribes in the South.
I'm glad
our people spoke mostly tribal tongue in the South during the 1800s. We knew to the language called English, and we totally ignorant to the language called legalese. They draw what's called the Sharecropper Agreement. The Sharecropper Agreement was being forced as a squatter right. Right? So they come in and they lend the farmer money.
Right. Not just that, tools.
And when they couldn't pay the money back, they took the land.
They didn't make
No. Right. Not yet. First, they'll give them a good crop. They'll let them get a good crop. This make them believe that the one holding the agreement with them is honorable and will cover what they said, and they will accept the split on the back end for the crop. Next year, the crops go in, beautiful crops all across the field. 3 a.m., all of the crops on fucking fire.
Damn, that's typical of them.
Next year roll around. Don't worry about the fire last year. We'll just roll it into next year's payment. That's how we got the plantations. Sweetheart swindles. The plantations wasn't a big house. It was Big Mama house.
Mm-hmm.
Until this new slickster from Europe rolled in, married her, and poisoned her to death. The tribes, when they do that, that's only to give it back to the daughters of the father whose children it was. They didn't take the land for selfishness. They tried to keep the land in the family at all costs.
Oh, they do that in Africa. I'm sorry.
Look, so what they doing, who is allowed to levy the tax on the land?
Who's allowed to levy the tax?
You have to be the one that's holding the title to the land.
Yeah. The deed.
You can't tax a land that's not under some kind of title treaty.
Right. Oh, okay.
This is the law of the landlords. The landlords came from Europe. They didn't come from over here.
Mm.
And they use barristers to do their bookkeeping.
They're doing it right now.
They've been doing it the whole time.
Right now.
This is what I'm trying to get us to see. All of this admiralty jurisdiction, nationality is the law of the flag, the law of the high seas. This is why a ship has a nationality, and all of the people have to have a nationality. Disregard your
really.
Long as you paying taxes on a piece of property, you're not the rightful owner.
That's what
you're the renter. You're the tenant. This is part of the squatter rights. This is what they use in the squatter rights in the treaties.
Yeah, man.
Look, the only reason why, listen, go back to Martin Luther King explaining to us how they brought the peasantry from Europe and undergird them with a financial floor to mechanize their farms. Just because that's just the floor. The floor is still on top of the land. So the whole time they can use the land. Some of the farmers are now being paid not to farm. Been doing it for over 100 years. I got you all this farmland, but I'm gonna pay you not to farm nothing. Right? That's because they need to control the output of the food resource. So all of this goes back to the eminent domain of the squatter right for the squatters to secure a piece of land.
That's what I
from the landlords who came from Europe. And the landlords is operating under false pretenses of being our government under the color of law. That's not us. The person asked the question, how do you claim your land back when it's communities on them? We work with the community. We don't displace people in our culture. We work with the people that's in the community to restructure the community and allocate resources. When the big mamas is back in charge, it's about making sure everybody got food, clothing, and shelter.
Right.
It ain't got nothing to do with I'm gonna bully you off the land because I don't think you're supposed to be here. It's about the return of the resources back to the people from a government that sucked all of the people's resources out.
We don't stick together.
This is the crystal globe. We looking at have and have nots in the New World Order. We chose not to be the have nots, so we took it all. By blood and by right. We was born with the right to restore the balance back to the people and the lands. All we got to do is put Big Mama back on her seat and go on about our business. Everything will fall in place according to the laws of nature. These contracts, that's what they using to enforce their jurisdictional authority to govern what you do on your land. They make you sign an adhesion contract. Most people don't know when they do their mortgage contract that they sign in the agreement to follow what's the homeowners association of the area. They ain't gonna tell you if you don't read it for yourself, right? They're not gonna tell you what you have, why you got to pay taxes. They gonna tell you it's to supply the services of the local government. That's supposed to be paid from out of DC and the capital of the state. Not supposed to be paid for by the resident. But remember, the landlords is the ones who's issuing these patents for squatter rights, disregarding the tribal lands where our ancestors is actually buried at. This is making them sacred lands, and they don't qualify under none of the treaties. The sacred lands do not qualify for none of the treaties. And we got ancestors buried from coast to coast. So they asserting their jurisdictional authority based on treaties and based on contracts they making with individuals. It has nothing to do with them having the proper jurisdiction. It has something to do with them having us go along to get along without telling us that we going along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
It's all deception at its finest. We can argue the particulars of law.
To 100%.
Right? But we still need to know what they use in the law to do to the people who's rightful heirs to the land. And they using what they call in the law to usurp the land law, the common law, the law of the people on the land of the tribes. All tribes west of the Appalachians are called in law dependent tribal nations. They call outlaw tribes, and they call belligerent tribes. Why do they call us this? Because we never signed none of their contracts because we never agreed. They only have a contract with 5 civilized tribes for a small portion of the Virginia territory, is what it was called at the time. They don't got no contracts to cross the Appalachians. They made that shit up as they go. And then as they make it up, we end up believing they are legitimate government. So we support their takeover and shenanigans to get us to surrender the land. No tribal chief from this land believes in selling land, because to us it's like selling your mama and your children, and we don't believe in that. Yeah. The people that came over here sold their mama to leave and sold their children when they got here. Yeah. Yeah. And that was called the Ottawa Territory, and it was a conglomeration of tribes from all through what they call it the Northwest Territory. But we called it Ottawa Territory, and it was a group of tribes that was belligerent to the settlers crossing the Appalachians, interfering with the inland, what became later known as the Louisiana Purchase. Yeah. The protectorate agreement of the French that they sold to the English was to make sure nobody crossed the Appalachians and went into, this is why you bring up King George, because they was not supposed to cross the Appalachians and go into what they called back then Indian territory or Bigfoot country, where them niggas with them big ass feet be stomping you across your neck.
Oh, come on now. My feet ain't
so when they telling us the stories, they telling us we mythical creatures. We werewolves. No, we not werewolves. We just wear wolf pelts when we fucking you up. Right? We wear the pelts of the jackal, or what we call over here the coyote. Right? So they came over as bloodsuckers. They vampires. We was already here, and they say we look like kin, so they call us lichens. And they tell us it's a story called Twilight. It's just a love story, but between a little pink girl and a little pink boy. But the native tribe turning into werewolves in the movie, and the pink motherfucker come from Europe to marry the little chick, because she got the blood from both tribes, the European tribe and the American tribes. So he gonna try to marry her so they can have this special baby. This is a story is redundant. Yeah. It's the same shit over and over. Your old Jesus Christ story reworked. Born of the blood of the Jews, but they murdered his ass at the hands of the Romans. It's the same fucking story. Yeah. They just dress it up in a different suit. It's the same goddamn lie. It's just a well-dressed lie now. It was dressed up to look like a superhero. Yeah. Remember, the pale face came for a drop of blood.
They always hurting somebody's feelings.
Right. J.A. Rogers in Section Race and Nature Knows No Color Line say, and Superman and Man say, that there was no self-respect in one of us that would touch one of them, and there was none of them that would touch one of us. How do you get one of us to get with one of them? You got to tell us we can't do it. You got to make us rebel against the order of the day. They had no beauty standard, but they can only develop one once they get their drop of blood, because their genetics doesn't allow for it. This is why they wore the corset dresses with the fox fanny. Yep, Nature Knows No Color Line. He's telling you that when they came over here, we wouldn't mix with them. We wouldn't touch them motherfuckers. Right? So when you force a people until you get to the mulatto stage and the octoroon stage, you can turn them loose on either side of the fence and they'll mix for you. to get the drop of blood throughout the spectrum. This is what he was reading when he was showing you that we ain't like them motherfuckers and they ain't like us. But they have to get their drop of blood some kind of way. And they unleashed the reign of terror to get it. And they was brought over here to keep us from ever getting into the institutions to get to the information. Right? So this is what he's telling you in the story that he was reading, is my man is describing how we perceive them, how they perceived us, and trying to figure out how to make us to perceive each other differently from two different sides of the world. Right? The snowman meet the sun man. Goddamn. Iceman inheritance. They got to go through a catharsis to get that evil shit out their blood that was put into them in the laboratory. The catharsis look like racism. It looks like sexism. It looks like oppression until they get fed up with the shit their parents did. That one drop of blood take hold in their psyche. They ain't gonna like that shit. So now you're gonna see pale faces. What Noble Drew Ali say? I'm gonna make the pale face tell you the truth. How is he gonna do that? He gonna talk to that one drop of blood. And that one drop of blood, I don't care what vessel it's in, it's gonna respond to the chief. This is what the whole crucible of God, great melding pot story that they're telling us the whole time. They telling us what they doing. And we not paying it no attention because it sounds like a slick slogan from the government. It's not. This is why eugenics was created, to make it look like they wanted to genocide us, to force us to accept some people we wouldn't accept. It's reverse psychology used at its maximum potential in a sociological instead of an individual capacity. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit no more. Now I'm trying to get, I want my big mama back. Fuck the bullshit. Because when Big Mama come home and all of her daughters get their shit back, we good. We could figure out everything else at that point.
So when is that supposed to happen?
Now in real time. Yeah. It's going down real time right now. The process is processing.
Understand, Big Mama. This part of me, I'm trying to.
You might not be one of us.
Or so it takes to be one of us.
He's a Hebrew Israelite.
Big Mama.
He might not be.
Why wouldn't you understand Big Mama, but you understand Big Papa?
He's a Hebrew Israelite. I mean,
listen,
there you go. That's the doctrine.
The return of Big Mama.
The restoring the matriarchal structure that the tribes operated on before the rogue patriarchs brought their Bible bullshit over here.
Mm-hmm. Paleolithic time.
It's just as simple as that. We say Big Mama because every clan called their tribal mother Big Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. Mudia, Nana. Right? It just depends on who she was, but the tribal mother, we called them Big Mama.
God.
He directly described the nature of lions. But what's the nature of the gorilla?
Same thing. A female gorilla.
It's not the same thing. When a male gorilla take over, he don't kill none of the babies.
Well, I know
father them all. The reason why I pointed out the difference in the nature of the lion and the gorilla is the evolution of the masculine in the species. The evolved masculine understand that the nature of the feminine, she may have children when he meet her. And the evolved man is going to nurture and father them children like they his own. But the unevolved man is going to have an attitude with the children and become easily frustrated with them because they not his own. It's a difference. It's levels to this shit.
I understand, but we talking about gorillas or men, because you're saying the uninvolved.
The same way you matched up the lions, I'm just showing you that the difference in the two species. The human species is above all that shit. But we don't want to accept that reality yet. We ain't culturally mature enough again. We have to remature back into the evolved beings we were when we nurtured everything on the planet, including the lion and the gorilla. Earlier, one of the sisters mentioned their uncle had always surrounded himself with a group of women.
I was just getting ready to say that.
There's something else that happens when you surround yourself with a group of women. You live longer.
Most loyal soldiers.
Look, we ain't even
Never
got to that
working.
part. I'm talking
Fact.
about the energetic difference,
That's a fact.
right? The mitochondrial support from multiple women allows the man to heal from some shit that he wouldn't have healed from without her.
Did
A
y'all
group
see
of
how
women, a group of balanced women are Tesla coils of healing mitochondrial resonance. This metaphysical science in the tribes was based on metaphysics. We move on the earth like the stars move in the sky.
see
Wait, Apostle, let him finish.
yeah.
The
It's all
Hebrew is
energy.
coming out of you.
It's all energy and energy management, resource management. As the gods, we ain't supposed to be walking around here trying to pretend to be animals. We supposed to do God shit. So I'm not finna go pissing on every tree I walk past like a dog just because I'm a man, but a dog gonna piss on every